Hey everyone, my name is Andy Hall. You're here on The Late Show. Jack Matirko, you seem abnormally happy today.
I am in a very good mood tonight, Andy. I really am. We just got done doing a test run over at TSTVHQ for the Lucian Greaves scripted Michelle Remembers the Porn Version table read event that we're doing. And it was a joy to work with real professionals sometimes. No offense to you.
Hey, what I want to say that this channel is officially well, it's going to be monetized. I'm waiting to hear back from YouTube. So I've gotten my subscribers, I've gotten my hours, and so I'm just waiting to hear back. So this is now considered to be a professional gig. I just want to say that.
I can't swear if it's monetized, right?
What's that?
I can't swear if it's monetized, right?
We should curtail our swearing. That's what we
curtail this. Yeah. Okay. So So over here, swearing is roughly curtailed, but over at tstvhq.com, go buy your tickets for our Lupercalia event. Not only is swearing not curtailed, we have puppets simulating masturbation. Let me leave it at that.
I'm in.
Pat Greene, thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. Pat, everyone who is a regular here on The Late Show or who's on the channel knows Pat Greene. He's a Chicago-based visual artist, sometimes writer, genius, exquisitely talented. Pat, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I just enjoyed a taste of normalcy watching the Super Bowl and then watching a bunch of white people complain about the halftime show. And I've got chamomile tea, and I don't have masturbating puppets.
I think the world could use more masturbating puppets, I think.
I'm going to have to order some.
It was a very enjoyable experience, and really everybody, if you just go see it.
Glowing. I haven't, even with the birth of your child, I've never seen you glow like this.
It was a very fun day, and everyone should go see the chaos that we collectively decided to make together. It's lots of fun.
So Pat, tell me if I'm wrong on this. Am I wrong to be angry at that Bruce Springsteen ad during the Super Bowl?
Well, it depends on whether or not it was scripted or if Bruce is just getting old and babbling.
Yes. I felt, and I've always been kind of ragey and prone to like violent rhetorical outbursts. And I saw that as Bruce pretty much saying we have to do this, we have to like fall for this middle of the road fallacy, and that, Kansas is the middle of the country. And so that's what speaks for America. And it's like, I don't think so. I think it's the coasts. I think
the thing is, over these past 4 years, to be specific, as a parent of a transgender college student, my child either has civil rights and value and worth, or they don't. There's no middle ground here. My child has rights or they don't. Black Lives Matter or they don't. We're okay with kids in cages at the border or we're not. I'm not sure where this mythical middle is. I mean, we have this fake narrative that there is this rational middle ground. And honestly, if you are a moderate progressive, I think that's pretty liberal if you look at the rest of the developed world.
Well, I think on the other, just to point it out, right? If Kansas, based on what that commercial's idea is, that Kansas is the representative mean of America, then Mitch McConnell has a point. I think Mitch McConnell doesn't have a point. I think Mitch McConnell, there's no reason he should be in that position of power, right? Because he's a Kentucky senator, right?
He is.
So if part of America is where the pulse is, then maybe it makes sense that he's doing. At least he thinks that's where the pulse is.
I think the middle of the road, to tell you the truth, just leads to fascism. That's what I think. I think it just leads leads to, I mean, if Democrats don't fight for democratic ideals, and if their default setting is middle of the road, I think that's what got us into this mess to begin with.
I think that Joe Biden is a lot further left than his branding would suggest. I think that deep down, Joe Biden is further to the left than the media portrays him to be.
I hope you're right.
I hope you're right.
Pat and I had the same kind of look on our faces, like, well, let's hope he does. Let's hope he does.
Look, we're talking an Irish Catholic boy from Scranton. I went to King's. I know what that place is like.
Yeah.
I just have a gut feeling.
So Jack, Pat has a story and a tale. As you have seen from the title of this episode, it isn't just a late night show, but we're talking about 23andMe and near-death experiences, which there are two distinct stories here, though they might be oddly connected in some weird way, which we'll only figure out after we've told our stories. So my story is regarding about the 23andMe stuff. Pat has the near-death experience stuff. Pat, you're the guest. Yeah, but it's instructive to a lot of people, because we were talking about the show before the show started about terms, and there are certain terms that they're like buzzwords for, like, oh no, this is dangerous, but if you don't know those words, then you're not aware of how dire the situation is.
Right. Did you want to go into 23andMe first? You're over there. Did you want to go into 23andMe first, or did you want me to?
I'll tell you this. I'll say this, is that you're the guest. You get to choose. If you want to go second, you can go second. If you want to go first, you can go first.
You go first. I'm curious about this.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I talked to my birth mother for the first time yesterday. For the first time ever, I talked to my sister for the first time. My genetic sister for the first time.
Complete sister or half sister? Like,
what's that, Jack?
Complete sister or half sister?
Half sister.
Okay.
So I have a complete mother. See, that's a joke. I have a complete mother, and I have a half sister, and apparently 3 half brothers, and a whole clan of people that I was unaware of. I was adopted when I was 3 months old, and didn't know anything really about my birth family. I made some attempts, not many, not hardcore attempts, to find them. But about 4 years ago, I did a 23andMe test. And for those of you who don't know what 23andMe is, it's basically you swab your DNA, you send it off to a lab, and they basically tell you where you're from, what your basic genetics are like in terms of you're more likely to get this disease or diabetes, for example. And what I did after that, there is this second website called GED Match. No, it has nothing to do with high school diplomas. It is GED Match. And what you do, you can upload your information to this other site, and people who are looking for lost relatives can locate you that way. I uploaded my information on that site years ago, and just recently, literally a few days ago, I got an email from a woman who told me that they have information about my birth parents. She gave me her name. She gave me her telephone number. I did a quick search. Well, I did some due diligence, right? Because I thought to myself, Jack, what's the first thing I think about? What do I think about when I get something good, possibly good happening to me?
What's the other shoe that's going to drop? Like,
right. What's the other shoe that's going to drop? Is this a trap? I was concerned whether or not this was a trap. Turned out she checked out, and I gave her a phone call. I sat on it for some time to think about it and reflect about it. And then I decided to give her a call yesterday. Yes, yesterday. And I left a message on her phone. She called me back while I was editing one of my silly videos here for the YouTube channel. And turns out she's my half sister. It turns out that my mother is still alive, and that I have 3 half brothers. And to say that I was overwhelmed with the information would be an understatement. I had to she was at work, and so listen, I just told her I have to. I'm just going to have to call you back after you get out of work, because I need time to process all of this information. So I called her up after work a couple of hours later, and in the meantime, I developed a plan and a strategy. I talked to my kids, I talked to a close friend of mine, I talked to my girlfriend to kind of try to get my head on straight. And then I called her, and I talked with her for about 25 minutes. And then I talked to my mom for the first time ever for 25 minutes.
How'd that go?
And well, what I wanted to do was that I didn't want to burden her. And sure, she is an elderly woman. She is 72 years old. And also it's the first time I've talked to her. And I felt like in a weird way, it's like when you first meet someone, it's like, hi, I'm not going to give you the whole picture of how awesome and weird I am. I'm going to give you little snippets that I hope are just digestible. It's about I am well, because the first thing she was most concerned about is whether or not I was okay. She gave me up for adoption when I was 3 months old, and her main concern was whether or not I am okay. And I told her a few times.
I would imagine that, like, for a mom who's in that situation and does something like that, you basically spend the rest of your life thinking about it.
Well, that's exactly it.
What if there? So, like, at least if you just let me get this out up front, I'm all right. Like,
yes,
not great, not terrible, but I'm all right.
I said that I mentioned that at least 3 times, that I am okay. That I am okay. That my kids, yes, you have, she has grandchildren anyway. But my kids are good. They are happy. They're healthy. I am happy and healthy. I am okay. And that seemed to ease her burden. And in easing her burden, because she lives with my sister a few months out of the year, that definitely eased my sister's burden too. And so I think it was a successful. I was able to contain myself, to contain my emotions for this 50-minute phone call, and yeah, that's the story. It was. It's the magic of the internet in the most positive way, in terms of connecting with people that you would never have connected with before.
Wow. Now, and if you said this, I may have tuned out because I was paying attention to Jack's puppets. Did you know you were adopted?
I did know when I was yes. My birth parents, my adopted parents, they had a lot of problems. They were nasty people, but they did tell me straight from the jump that I was adopted.
Okay.
Yeah. But at no point did I think realistically that I would ever connect with my mother or with my I didn't even think about the possibility about having siblings, to tell you the truth. I was mostly concerned about meeting or knowing more about my mother and my father. And I did find out some information probably about my father too. I did some research from what she told me. And the man, I believe, who was my father, who I looked very similar to, died back in 2011. He died at, he was healthy for most of his life. He died when he was 85, and seemed to be a bright guy. He was a graduate from Syracuse University, and did well with his life. But it was a lot, and still is a lot.
what does that do to the emotions and the mindset when you start talking to this person who you have never met before?
It's it was really weird, to say the least. And I felt like, once again, I wanted to make sure that she was okay, and she is. She's led a full life, and that she is, relatively healthy for a 72-year-old person. And Pat, when you're a caregiver, right, you mostly care about the other person, and so you're concerned about how the other person's doing. And so that's how I was able to navigate through the entire conversation. Yeah.
Was there any part, like, you and I have worked together for a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's interesting for me to think about, like, how over the course of us doing stuff on the internet together, we've interviewed a lot of people who we've never met before, and to what extent did that inform your approach to that conversation?
Oh, it informed it quite a bit, actually, because you always want to start off in a safe island, so to speak. It's like, well, this is a safe topic that we can talk about, and you have to give the other person permission somewhat. It's like, hey, is this okay if I ask this? Or you want to make the other person feel comfortable to talk and accept it. And I got, to say that I have mixed emotions about my mom, about being adopted, about, being given up, would be an understatement. But you start off with the safe islands, and then you kind of try to muddle through it without causing any harm, I guess. I think that was my main concern.
I know I'm the guest, but one more question. Is there anything that you experienced in the conversations, as brief as they were, that made you rethink any preconceived notions you have about nature versus nurture?
Oh, brother, that was huge. The tinnitus that I have tinnitus in both of my ears. If anyone watches the channel regularly, I'll mention every once in a while. It turns out that on my mother's side of the family, they all have crap ears. And so that helps explain that. Is that, I've had ringing in my ears since I can remember, the earliest that I can remember. And that is firmly a genetic trait right there. I would be interested to find out more about my half brothers, because I'd like to know if the rage is nurture or nature, to tell you
So how do you start that conversation?
Which one would you prefer the rage be, nature or nurture? You'd rather nurture, like,
my son is.
I'm an angry dick. Everybody I knew was for the first 10 years of my life, or is it like?
Yeah.
How do you start that conversation? How many assault charges have you had? What do you do?
I think, to tell you the truth. All right. So this is what I'm doing. I'm actually, I'm finding this therapeutic emotionally, as well as, because there's so many names, guys. There's so many names that I have to remember now in relationships. And I know my mom's name. Good point. Good thing now. I know my sister's name. Also a step in the right direction. I still, at this point, don't know my brother's names. And so that's the next piece of information I want to, another piece of information I want to find out. I've actually started writing down notes in a little notebook, so that I can, because it's a large family with, and all the boys have kids. My sister has kids. And so I'm really just trying to wrap around just the raw data that's coming in, as well as the emotional stuff. And I don't even know my brother's name at this point.
You stumbled onto a data treasure trove to support your hypochondria. This is going to be fun, Andy.
Well, it's funny. Funny you should say that, Jack, right? So, like I said, the man who I'm pretty sure is my dad, died at 85. So just out of the blue, my girlfriend was making vegetarian pigs in a blanket tonight for the halftime show. And just out of the blue, I said, I could live to be old. You know that? And she's like, oh, that's great. That's fantastic.
That's not what I signed on for.
It's like, yeah, you could get another 35 years of this.
As she does the math on the life insurance policy premiums.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. So yeah,
Have you ever caught her watching Double Indemnity?
That is the old film noir movie from the 40s.
Yes,
I have seen it. It's been a long. It's been a long time, Pat. It's been a long time.
Well, the joke got lost because you're not up to date on 40s pop culture. Right. I failed as a guest. I'll drink my chamomile in shame.
Right. So yes, Double Indemnity. I remember seeing that. I was on a film noir kick for a while, and I think I specifically rented it from one of the streaming services.
Film noir is actually the driving force behind most of my black and white photography, because it always focuses on high contrast, hard lighting, where today we've got the soft lighting and everything is really about being pin sharp. And I don't like the trends. I like having style. And film noir was this amazing time with visual and written style that's compelling.
Right. And
if you had to, what is your iconic film noir film?
Mine?
Yeah.
To Have and Have Not.
Oh.
It was the first Bogey and Bacall movie.
Oh, nice. That was really fast. Well done, Pat. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I was just going to say the basic, which is, of course, the Maltese Falcon, right? I mean, which I've seen a number of times. That is, I think, the most common of the film noir movies that people know about.
I mean, I think for me, I don't know. I feel like I should be able to make a fair argument that Metropolis is film noir. Like, it's this weird kind of film noir, sci-fi, proto-cyberpunk thing, but I think that's my go-to.
Yeah.
Visually, it's stunning, and I can see the similarities, but it's also way too early and predates the genre.
Yeah.
It's what sci-fi does, man.
It predicts the future, which, so we have young adult fiction to thank for the Trump administration.
Young adult fiction.
They created the dystopian nightmare far better than Animal Farm.
Well, you're right about that. There's very Hunger Game-ish kind of attitude during the last. Yeah, that's right. So Pat, the last time that we talked, where were we in this entire political drama? We were after the election, but before the inauguration.
We hadn't had the election yet. We were on the election trail, but the election hadn't been finalized yet. So it still was anybody's game and anybody's fear. Right. So we were either going to have 4 more years of hell or 4 years of, I doubt we're going to have heaven. Maybe lukewarm is better than hell. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to get. We'll see.
What I like about Pat is his bright-eyed optimism. The idea if Trump got another 4 years, that it would only be 4 years of hell after that.
No. It's according to the group that I used to belong to many years back, it was eternal. But whatever. Right. I'm alive though, so there's that. How's that for a segue?
So yes, this is a good pivot because. A little while ago, at least in my mind, it was a little while ago. I remember watching it unfold. I'm just going to refer to it as it because I don't want to step on your lines and I don't want to take your story from you. But there were things happening to you, Pat, that I'm like, wow, that seems dangerous or bad. Or you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it was the week between Christmas and New Year's. And for about a week and a half, 2 weeks prior to that, I was having this pain at the base of my spine by the tailbone. And it was getting worse and worse and worse. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to have to see a doctor about this. And then I noticed a bump develop, and I'm just like, oh, we probably have a cyst. And I should see a doctor about that, and it'll be fine. I'm sitting at my desk, the one behind me back there, which is, I have a day job besides my photography and writing, and a day job we're now working from home instead of downtown Chicago. And so I was at that desk, and the pain was getting worse. It was hard walking from the bed to the desk. And I'm just like, I'm going to have to take an Uber ride or a Lyft ride to a medical center. I'm not looking forward to that. And then the dam bursts. The thing literally breaks open. And there is this discharge and this odor that is beyond belief. And it's a lot of it. And the pain amps up to levels that I have never experienced in my life. So I'm calling 911, and then I'm using the Skype feature at work to text my VP, telling him I'm calling an ambulance. And all he says is, I'm trying to be the responsible minion in free market capitalism. And he's just like, go, what's wrong with you? Go. And so I'm on the phone with the woman from 911, and I'm trying to tell her what's going on. And I'm trying to be good-natured about it, but I'm in a lot of pain. Now, because I live on the second floor in this condo, I don't want a bumpy ride. So I don't want them bringing the stretcher. So I hobble my ass downstairs, leaking as I go. And I wait outside for the ambulance, and the woman stays on the phone with me the whole time. The ambulance comes. I tell them what's going on, and they put me in on my side, strap me in, check my vitals, and I'm in a lot of pain, but I'm calm. Yeah. So I'm just yucking it up with the ambulance driver every time he hits a bump, and I'm like, come on, dude. And he's like, what do you want? And we're making jokes about how we're in one of the wealthiest suburbs as we were getting closer to the hospital, we're in the wealthiest suburbs in the Chicago area, and the roads suck. And we're making jokes about that because I'm feeling intense pain with every bump. They bring me in, they put me in a room, and there's a long wait. And I'm calm, I'm lying down on my stomach, and I'm in a lot of pain, and everything's still leaking and going on. And the doctor comes in, first the nurse comes in, she talks to me for a few moments. Everything's calm, she leaves. The doctor comes in 15, 20 minutes later, and he's calm, and he's like, well, let's take a look at what we've got going on here. Pulls down the pants, and then there's silence, and he walks out of the room. And I'm just like,
that's not good.
And I'm just like, okay, I've been to the emergency room. I've never had this happen before. And then he comes back in, and he goes, we're bringing a tray in, and we're going to be performing surgery on you right now. And I'm like, anesthesia? And he's like, no time for that. You're about to go sepsis. I'm like, okay. Now, here's where things get fun. I have no idea what that word meant at the time. So I'm like, oh, okay. And all I'm doing is I'm frustrated because they do some injections to numb the area. And while they're doing the surgery, I'm texting my kid who is 50 miles away. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to need a ride home. I'm having emergency surgery. Well, when's it happening? I'm like, it's happening right now. And now, because I'm calm about it, because I have no idea what's going on, my kid is calm about it. Oh, okay, Dad just needs a ride home from the ER. I'll do the 50-mile drive, pick him up, take him home. And then at one point, I hear, as the doctor's doing suctioning and everything, he's like, oh God. And now comes the completely impromptu on his part. The nurse starts trying to coax me by saying, you did the right thing by coming in. You so did the right thing by calling an ambulance. I'm like, okay. And when they were done, and it took a while for them to take care of it, they pack it instead of giving me sutures, and they tell me that in about 4 or 5 days, I can remove the packing and everything will close naturally. And in a couple of months, I'm going to have to see a specialist so that we can determine if there's more that needs to be done in another surgery, which will likely be the case. I developed an abscess. That abscess ended up having dead hair, skin particles, and it just filled up with pus. This could have been going on for a month. This could have been going on for a year and a half. But it was just growing and growing and growing and expanding in this nether region, literally. And because it's so close, not to be graphic, I can't swear, but I can say, since it's so close to the anal cavity and everything else, that's where the danger to my life was. So,
Wow.
but again, I'm calm. My kid picks me up. I'm calm. We're having a conversation. I'm in pain. We stop off at Walgreens first so I can pick up my Norcos and these super powerful antibiotics that rip my stomach apart. And we get home and I start talking about it on the internet. I tell my boss that I'm out for a little while because I'm going to be doped up and I can't sit down. And I did, while I was at Walgreens, I had to buy a donut chair and I was sitting on that for 3 or 4 weeks. And during that process, when I started talking about it on Facebook and on social media, Leah, someone that I know up in Northern California, she sends me a message saying, "What the hell's going on?" So I told her the story, and she goes, "You're awfully calm for somebody who almost went sepsis." I'm like, "I don't even know what that means." So she tells me, and then I Google it, and I'm like, "Oh, fuck." Now, so
Yeah,
this
you died of blood poisoning. Congratulations, you did.
this is my near-death experience, and the whole time that I'm having it, I don't know it. Now I have this existential panic because we are in December, November of 2019. 13 months prior to that, I made a serious suicide attempt that almost worked. And I did not have the ability to call an ambulance. My ex-fiance, who didn't want to have anything to do with me anymore, figured out that something was wrong somehow. She called my kid, said, "Have you heard from your dad?" No. She calls a couple other people from Florida and then decides, "Oh, something bad has happened. I'm going to call for a wellness check." And if it wasn't for those 4 cops coming to my door, I'd be dead now. And, I mean, but that one, from the moment that I tried to commit suicide, I regretted it. But I do have to include something funny during that. The entire time that I'm fighting for consciousness after I OD'd, I had a raging erection, which I later found out was a side effect from an overdose on the particular drug that I had. But I mean, I'm talking like I'm 15 again. And I thought it was funny. I'm like, I'm going to die and this is going to happen. This is how they're going to find me. This sucks. But I actually found it funny. It was in the midst of being scared that I actually pulled the trigger and I was actually going to die. I thought that was funny. I'm like, I'm going to die with a heart on. This sucks, but it's kind of funny. But then, whenever I was in the hospital and then going through mental health therapy, I was inpatient for 2 weeks. I disclosed things that happened in my childhood. My mom's husband that she married when I was 9 years old, he and his best friend were pedophiles. And it was a horrific, nightmarish life that, because I never disclosed it and talked to anybody about it, pretty much set the tone for the rest of my life with other areas of complex trauma. And from the point that I got out of the hospital, that point, November, I've been fighting for my life and I've been fighting for a new life. And I'm so proud of who I am now and all the heavy lifting I've done now. I am the best me, or I don't know if I'm the best me or not, but I actually freaking like me for the first time in my life. I mean, this has been this huge thing. So in November, when I hit the 1-year date of my suicide attempt, I was all proud of myself. I'm like, guys, I'm alive. Everybody, I'm alive. I feel better than I've ever felt before. My relationship with my child is better. I'm not in an official relationship with anyone. I don't have a girlfriend, but I'm happy. The isolation of shelter in place sucks, but I'm alive. And then when I found out what sepsis was, I got really mad because I'm alive. I want to be alive. I no longer want the end. I want to be 70. I want to be 80. I want to be 90. And I didn't know I was in danger this whole time that I'm like, oh, there's something weird going on with my back. Oh, it hurts to walk. Oh, there's a little growth there. I'm just thinking nothing. So, if I have to take away the lesson from it, 1, sepsis is serious. Kids, don't get sepsis. 2, I get angry about near-death experiences now. They used to be funny stories that I told at bars. I'd be, let me tell you about the day that I got stabbed. And I turn it into a funny story. Let me tell you about the day that I tried to kill myself and had a raging heart on. And I make it a funny story in a pub situation. But now it's no longer funny. Now there's no humor in it. Now I'm really mad. And I carried that anger with me along with gratitude for being alive for a good month. I mean, the whole time that I was healing, it was a reminder, dude, you almost died and you had no clue. You almost died and you're making jokes with the ambulance drivers. But maybe when we do die, that's exactly the mood we should be in because we're living.
I find it odd that no medical professional told you the severity of your situation.
I have 2 thoughts on that that I'm making up right now. Thought number 1 is because of the unique circumstances of the surgery, they probably didn't want me to panic.
Yeah.
And because I was calm and they were giving me the medication, and because that was the same hospital I stayed at when I came in a year previous to that date to try to off myself, they probably didn't want to alarm me. Somebody did come in after the surgery while I was recovering from the pain of it, because those injections to numb the area, they don't do very much. But this woman came in who was a social worker who started asking me if I was okay, and I told her jovially, oh man, I was here last year and almost died. I've almost died several times in my life. They're actually quite funny stories. Still not aware that I was in mortal peril.
Yeah.
And so I was completely calm. And so number 1, I think that's the reason why they said that, and why they didn't say anything. And number 2, maybe he just assumed that I knew what sepsis was because I just said very casually, oh, okay.
Right. Now, for people who are watching who may not be aware of what sepsis is, how would you describe that, Pat? What is the definition?
Toxins are going to go into your bloodstream and you're going to die from blood poisoning, and it's going to be painful and you're going to be dead. There's no turning back once you go that route.
That's how I understand it too. Sepsis is serious and typically leads to an unpleasant end. Yeah.
Now, when you say tinnitus, I know what tinnitus is. I didn't know what sepsis was. I don't watch medical shows. I never went to med school. I went to Bible college. I have a degree in a God that I don't even believe in anymore. So, my life skills, I was taught that the earth was 6,000 years old. There's no evolution, and the ark was a real thing.
That is definitely one of the things that doesn't come up with the Christian education issue as much as it really should. Is it's like, okay, yeah, fine, you can teach them whatever you want, but think about the stuff that you're not teaching them about that's really important because you're trying to fill their heads with this crazy story. Like, that's very...
I swear to you, I know more about ancient Jewish dietary principles as stated in Leviticus than I actually learned in my teens and my 20s about nutrition.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it just feels like a waste of space, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I remember being a taxi cab driver because after I left the ministry, I mean, my kid came out, my marriage ended, the church fell apart, and I'm deconstructing my faith in a taxi cab because I have no idea how free market capitalism works. And I had a few job interviews, and they didn't pan out. And a friend of mine told me, they hire anybody to be a taxi driver. I'm like, score. So I was working the night shift, and out on weeknights when the bars close from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. before you start getting the morning commuters, the city is yours. There's nothing going on. So you park behind a gas station, park by the casino, park by the Union train station, and you just read or you nap. So I'm reading all of these books about comparative religion. I'm reading these books about science. I'm reading these books about history. And bit by bit by bit, everything that I thought was true could no longer hold.
Yeah.
But I never did pick up a medical reference manual to study up on sepsis.
Well, but the important question here is if you hadn't read those books and you still held all those previous beliefs when the sepsis happened, would you have gone to the hospital, or would you have said, well, God will take care of it one way or another and not?
Actually, yes, I would have, because I was a minister for 19 years of my life. And as a minister, even though we believed in prayer and even though we believed in healing and so on and so forth, a good part of my job, I cannot tell you how many funerals I have officiated, and I can't tell you how many hospital rounds that I've done for people that were sick or on their last days. So I understood death was a real thing, and I understood that essential oils and praying isn't going to magically make things go away. But I still probably would have thought that the Earth was 6,000 years old, and I still probably would have never figured out why fossil fuels exist despite that fact. Yeah, as an evangelical, I loved oil, but I didn't think it was real. I needed the dinosaurs to be real to get this thing that I love more than the ecology, but it didn't really happen. So it's a giant cognitive disconnect, and nobody teaches you about sepsis or masturbating puppets.
They don't. It's interesting is that, when you have these major life, experiences or trauma or circumstances that happen to you, whether it's, potential near-death experiences or, I think it's difficult to really predict how it's going to affect you over the long term.
And the thing about that is, I have had near-death experiences. As a taxi driver, you were a cash register on wheels in the middle of the night. So dangerous things happened. I've been stabbed. I had a cardiac issue when I was 36 because I weighed 270 pounds and drank 12 cups of coffee a day and ate fried everything. Shocker. There have been these times that I've almost died, and it's part of the reasons why I don't have PTSD. They call it complex trauma, because I've had an exciting, weird life. And so by this point, I'm just irritated by it. I almost died. That sucks. I'm really mad, but I don't know what I'm mad at. I can't be mad at the abscess. I can't be mad at a deity. There's nothing to be mad at.
Feels like ennui almost.
Yeah. If somebody tries to stab you, there's a dude with a knife. If you have a heart attack, you ate horrible things. If you try to kill yourself, you tried to check out. If you get an abscess that gets infected near a sensitive area that could go into your bloodstream, that's just something that happened. That's random.
The other one, at least you found a way to put the responsibility on yourself, but for that one, you couldn't really.
Right. I can't put it on it. I can't put it on myself. I can't put it on anybody else. About the only takeaway that I've gotten from this is I'm not going to hesitate before seeing a doctor anymore. I'm going to embrace that hypochondriac nature that you have and say, oh, I better get this checked out.
Yeah, I think that's wise.
Unite, and then use CRL to make sure your hands are clean.
Right. No, I really think that's wise, Pat. A little bit of awareness, or it's difficult. You don't want to become a full blown hypochondriac for real, of course. But you want to have kind of like a sweet zone of awareness. That's what I think. You got to have a sweet zone of awareness of your own body. Yeah.
Well, the simple fact is I'm not 20 anymore, so you got to take your health seriously. If you fall, it takes a little longer to get up. And I want to be that person that when I'm in my 60s, when I'm in my 70s, if I make it to my 80s, it would be nice to still be virile and to be healthy and to have a sharp mind and a fit body. And those are now very important to me. Being the best me is very important to me, and celebrating that, because with my suicide attempt, I'm very vocal about that. I'm very vocal about PTSD. I believe that it's important that we normalize therapy, and that's what my whole next I don't know if you pay attention to my Facebook, but I'm in the middle of a book project that's going to be my biggest photo book project yet. Everything else has been self-published, 25 issues on my website. This one's going into all the usual suspects with an ISBN number. And it's a celebration of mental health. Basically, with all of my subjects, there's going to be 2 separate photo shoots. One is based on the expectations of beauty that we have. And being a second-generation photographer, my dad shot for Marshall Field, Chicago Tribune, The Bunny, so on and so forth. So there's a standard of modeling and beauty that exists within the industry that I'm in. And I know that very well. And I'm a participant in that. So we're going to take that expectation picture, just like the societal expectations that we have, and then we're going to do a photo shoot of them as they are. And that can be whatever you want it to be. If during a shoot you're uncomfortable and you need to fidget and stim, do it. And in that, we've shot 6 of the 10 subjects that I need so far, and I still need 2 more to fill this. At minimum, I can go with as many as I want, but I need a minimum of 10 for page count. The second one is the beauty, because people are beautiful exactly as they are, and they're not, to force everybody to put on a fake smile and to have beautiful posture. Screw that.
So, Pat, I'm curious about this because, we have one picture that is the societal expectation of beauty. And then you have something that's a little bit more honest, right? A little bit more raw, maybe. How much input does the participant have in terms of what picture you choose?
Actually, both pictures are chosen. Now, if you mean what in the final product as to what appears in the book, and then there's also a graphic novel that's being based off of this too, because I can. The final shots, the agreement is I'm sending it to you. You have final approval, and they don't have to justify. They don't have to justify or explain anything. They can just say no, because during the first shoot, the expectation shoot, I tell them ahead of time, I'm micromanaging you. This is going to be uncomfortable. This is going to be stressful, and I'm going to force you to smile, and I'm going to force your posture. And we created a safe word. Now, so far with the 6 people that I've shot who have all sorts of different conditions, nobody's had to break out the safe word. And I interview them afterwards and say, how was it? Was it uncomfortable? They're like, yeah. And I said, how uncomfortable? They were just like, uncomfortable enough to feel like what I have to feel like when I'm at work. Uncomfortable enough to feel like what I have to feel when I'm at my mother's. But I could handle it because I knew I had an out with you.
Right. That's
and
good.
Then The second shot, it's just like when I'm doing my street photography. When I'm doing my street photography, I have to capture that authentic, decisive moment. And I don't get to control what that looks like. I just have to be present for it. So the second shoot, I'm just letting them be them. And that shoot takes longer because there comes a point where they eventually tune out my presence. The guy with the camera going. There comes a point where they tune out, and that's when they become authentic.
It's like Anthony Hopkins with the gorillas in Instinct.
Oh, good analogy.
Thank you.
But yeah, this has been my favorite project yet, because this is something, I mean, I've done one-offs for fine art to be in galleries in the Chicago area and art shows and blah, 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 blah. And my street photography I put online, and I've sold 2 books of the street photography. But this is something where I'm telling a story without violating their privacy, because I don't talk about their conditions. I don't talk about their medications. I don't even give their name. But I want the story to be told.
One of the themes of this, I mean, what strikes me is that one of the themes of the piece is that it's also consent, because the people are consenting in a way of what picture you use, of how they care. And so that's powerful in and of itself. Yeah.
Well, that is in that last relationship that I had that ended around the time that I tried to off myself. She was an amazing person, and I grew so much during that relationship. But one of the things that I learned most in that relationship was consent. She would get upset with me if, things got flirty when we were out on a date, and then we'd come back to the house. And if she lost the mood, I would get pouty, and she would be like, this is hurtful to me. And she lived with this angst for probably 1.5 years of our relationship. And then finally she trusted me enough to just say, this is what expectation feels like. This is what this is. And my life, and this, and I know you've never forced a move, but this passive aggression will not stand. And that changed. That was a game changer for me when I saw what that meant to her. And it affected not just the intimacy, but it affected everything else about everything we did as a couple. It affected how things go with my child. It affects how things go with my friendships. It affects how things go with my street photography. I need to have at least implied consent. When I'm shooting somebody, there's a moment of eye contact that I'm waiting for. And if I get that, and there's awareness, and there's not a scowl, I'm going to take the shot. If there's awareness and it's like, I'm not happy with you, only one time did I violate that. And that was because it was a dude who was a con artist dressed up as a monk trying to take people's money. And so I went after him and followed him, and he broke character and started taking swings at me and dropping F-bombs. And suddenly he could speak perfect English, and he's grabbing for my camera, and I'm holding it up here, and he's shorter than me. So he's jumping up. That was funny. I didn't care about consent at that point. But consent for me in life, with my friendships and my relationships and everywhere I go, it's probably the most important thing that we have. People need to have autonomy to be who they are, just like I want autonomy to be me. And as somebody who suffers from mental health issues, I know what those expectations feel like. And from watching my kid have to deal with family members and former congregants of the church that I pastored, and just general a-holes in society, there is this expectation to be cis hetero. There is this expectation that if you do come out as trans, you have to pass. You know what? That's not a rule. That's a thing that you're hung up on, not what my kid and their friends are hung up on. Screw you.
It's an interesting conundrum, because I'm a narcissist. I'm going to bring it back to me. Exactly.
Go for it.
Of course. Is that as I engage in my genetic family, exactly. How do I, I don't want to be in the closet, because, even though I am in a heterosexual relationship, I am not. and we've talked all three. I've talked about this very openly, and I am an atheist, but I am not an in the closet atheist. I am who I am. And
out of curiosity, wasn't there a little bit of a moment, Andy, where you said who you were, and you were kind of like, I can't believe you haven't Googled me.
I have to tell you this. I am amazed that my sister, and maybe my sister did Google me and is playing it cool, right? But really, once that's why I'm so conservative now and how I am engaging with my family, with my birth family, because as soon as one of them knows, then it could be the fact that everyone has a prejudicial opinion about me. And so the same conversations or the same issues I had with my adopted parents, I do not at the age of 52 want to go through similar things that I had to. And of course, my kids are watching me. And so I have to, and so I feel like I need to be a good example. I have to give I have to be a good example in the fact that, we are who we are in the world, and I'm not telling them to hide who they are in the world either. I'm trying to give them an environment that they can feel safe, that they have agency, that they can be who they are, and it's safe, at least with me. And but on the same hand, it's just difficult, and it's something I'm going to muddle through. I think that's what's going to happen. I'm just going to muddle through it.
And that is the good news and the bad news. I mean, the good news, when my kid was younger, I used to tell them when they were a teenager, you get to come out to whoever you want on your terms. You're in control of the narrative. The hard part was that narrative that you control, you don't control the reaction. And sometimes that reaction is hurtful. And, I've seen, not just with my kid, but with, I became dad to a lot of my kids' friends because I'm the accepting dad and I'm the affirming dad, and not everybody had that. So, I get to see the pressure, the tears, and sometimes the internalized dysphoria where they wish they weren't this thing, because life would just be so much easier if people like them as they are. And it's like, that sucks. So, when we're talking to somebody who's bipolar or suffers from recurrent depression or whatever the case may be, I'm not going to take that away from them. They are giving me a gift, and they are helping me participate in something that I hope gets people to think and raises some money for a good cause. We're in this together in co-collaboration. And if I take something from them, that's wicked. And as a former minister, I've seen what religion can do in the name of help, where they take stuff away from people. Yeah. You don't want to, you want to stop the cycle. That's what you want to do. You want to stop that kind of obviously they're in control of the narrative. If they have, if, like, let's say 3 weeks before it goes to print, somebody says, I can't do this anymore, I'm out, I'll figure it out. They haven't presented me a problem. They have given me their boundary.
No, that's wise. It's hard to believe, but we're actually coming down to an hour of conversation. Thank you for listening to me. I had to get some stuff off my chest.
It was a delight.
Yeah, and it was great hearing your story too, Pat. That was I'm happy that we had the opportunity. That I had the opportunity to hear it. Yeah.
And I want links to Jack's puppets. I need to learn more about that. And my only plug is patgreenphoto.com.
They're not my puppets. My friend in Colorado is the one with the puppets. I was just the guy who was recording the Zoom.
I love the defensive jazz hands you're rocking here.
Well, I don't want to overstate what I did other than do some taping and a little, light editing and photo overlays. I didn't do a whole lot compared to what the people who were on screen reading the script were doing, right? So
last time I was on the show, you weren't here, so this is my first time getting to interact with you, and it's been fun.
This has been a delightful conversation. I agree. Had a very lovely time this evening.
All right, so Pat, you already did your plug. Jack Matirko.
I did all my plugs way at the beginning of the show, but go buy tickets at tstvhq.com for the stuff coming up next week.
Pat,
when did you say the book was coming out? Did you give a date? Did you give
the target date is May. The target date is May. Whether that's May 1st or May 15th, I don't know. I'm shooting for May. I still have a few models that I need to get. I've only got 8 of the minimum 10 that I need, and I've shot 6 of those. So the other 2 could bail, and that's okay. And so I don't know what's going to happen. I still need to fill it, and then once I fill it, that's when I start assembling the 2 expressions, one being the traditional photo book, the other one having more of a graphic novel vibe, which I'm going to incorporate some storytelling. Because when you've got those 2 juxtapositions, I'll close with this, you've got a Clark and Superman, you've got a Diana, Wonder Woman, Peter, Spidey, whatever you want to call it. There's a superpower that needs to be celebrated as opposed to hidden.
I like that. Makes me want to see the book. That's what it does. That's that's a good hook.
Yay!
That's a good hook.
I succeeded in marketing. I am capitalism.
Everyone, I'm going to be back here at 9 o'clock in the morning to do the morning show. And so maybe I'll see you in the morning, 9 a.m. Eastern. Once again, Pat, thanks for coming on. Jack Matirko, always a pleasure, sir. Always a pleasure to hang out with you on Sunday evenings.
Yes, I am getting used to this being a regular Sunday evening thing now, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, me too. All right, thanks again, everyone. I'm going to hit